Welcome to Season 4 of the Lead with Coffee podcast, where we continue the journey into how you can change the culture in your business and your home through simple leadership practices. Grab a cup of coffee and get ready to join into today's conversation. Welcome back to Lead with Coffee. Today we want to dive into high performance teams, David's favorite topic, but we're going to dive into it anyway. So over the last couple of years, teams look different. And David particularly has been fascinated with what it takes to become a high performance team and has found a lot of great leaders that are inspiring him to take our company to the next level. And I think what we all have to remember is it doesn't matter how many team members you have. You can create a high-performance team, whether it is a team of 10 or a team of 100. It is about how you lead successfully, and sometimes you got to break it all the way down to build it all the way back up.
Yeah, and I have. I really have been fascinated by this because I want to see our business continue to grow and scale and all those things. In order to do that, you need to have the right person in the right seat, and you also have to give them the right tools in order to do that. And what we found overall is you're going to have team members that will jump in and be like, yeah, I'm a go, and others that are going to be like, whoa, I don't know if this is for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just the thought of, having a high performance team, which is, like a well-oiled machine that just goes and people know what they're supposed to be doing, and you're as a business owner, you're able to focus more on the business itself and not about what's being done inside, because you have high-level leaders in there that are doing their jobs at a high level. And that's where I want to get, where we're spending more time out of the weeds and on the business and being able to grow the business. For a small business, that's hard. Mm-hmm. That's hard because you are touching all parts of it. And for me, some of the things that are in the weeds are more natural for me. But it all goes back to leadership and trying to build up those behind you to be leaders that might end up being better than you because you've given them the right opportunities, and they might just have a couple more skills that either they didn't know they had, or you gave them the opportunity to use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's so many aspects to peak performance, and it's very easy for a leader to say, I want a high performance team, but are you a high performance leader?
Right.
They're modeling you. So if you're kind of cruising into your day and you're just checking the boxes and maybe you're in the weeds, but you want your team over here running and thriving and growing your business, well, you're not doing that. And I think that's the key when you're a leader, is you have to make sure that you are doing what you're asking others to do. And if you don't have the capacity to do it, how are they going to get that? And that's how you can lose people, when you have an expectation for them that you don't have for yourself, for the rest of your culture. And culture is key to peak performance. If you want peak performers, then your culture needs to be something that you're building and growing. That's having this as a regular dialogue. We've had it as a pretty regular dialogue on the podcast for the past season, as we're talking about how do we get our team out of languishing? How do we get them not back to where they were, but building them up to where they can be today? And that looks different. And I think that when we're doing a lot of that conversation of build back versus build up, that relates to this high performance team. We have to get our teams fully functioning again to get them to be peak performers, right?
Yeah, and I think it has to do everything with culture, and I think it has to do with the language that you use. And, our business, our tagline is navigating change, delivering excellence, and it's a mindset. The delivering excellence, it's not delivering perfection. It's not, delivering an average, product. It's delivering excellence. So the mindset is, have I done enough? Am I doing everything I can do? Do I have the energy to put everything into it that I know it needs to get to in order to be successful? Mm-hmm. And that's the mindset that we've been trying to help our staff with. It's like, okay, this checks the box of what is acceptable, but is that what we're trying to say, that we're just enough to be acceptable? Or, are we, hey, if we do this, then, the client's going to be like, wow, they're willing to go the extra level or take that extra step, and that's what's going to be remembered. And if you can teach your team the mindset of, let's just do a little bit extra, it goes a long way. And so that's kind of the mindset that we've been working on with our staff. But again, not everyone believes in that, and that's okay. And not every team is going to believe in that, and that's okay too. I'm talking about where I want to be for us as a company, not necessarily where even some of the companies we work with or some of the people we work with feel that same way, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. I think it ties well into when we were talking about working in your zones. To be a really high performance team, you have to acknowledge that when are you all in your green zones or even your yellow zones, so that way you're able to really deliver this high level with everyone fully running at their best pace, right? And not at half capacity, because everything is starting at 2:00 in the afternoon versus when most people are in their green zones, typically between that 8 to 12 kind of window. The other perspective I think I have that is a little more unique is building high performance teams in a large corporate organization versus a small business. They look very different, and not everyone has both of those elements, I think, in their wheelhouse. And coming from having 150 staff and trying to build peak performers, what we learned to do well was find people's natural strengths and then build them into those roles. And as we found where maybe they were in a position that wasn't their strength, we could shift them. So that way we were building teams around projects where everyone was working in their strengths. And there's plenty of opportunity when you have 150 employees to shift around and move and say, okay, so this isn't really your strength, but this is. And so let's shift you with someone that really can do what you're doing as a natural part of what they're wired to do versus forcing you into financials when you are someone that wants to go communicate and lead. So that was one thing that I think that works really well when you have larger teams, and that is really paying attention to people's strengths and their passions. If you've got them in something that they're not passionate about, they're never going to be a peak performer for you. But if you have those, what I call passion talks, you're able to really identify that you love this. This is an area I can help you get into. And man, you're going to watch them just excel and launch into finding their own. In a small business, that's very hard.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think you're going through a practice right now where you're really identifying what are those areas that I'm great at, but I don't like doing. Even though I'm really good at it, I don't want to do it because I'm really passionate about something else over here. But in small business, we wear so many hats, and there are areas that I just don't love, but I have to do them because there isn't anyone else to give it to, right?
Yeah, I agree. And what she's talking about, Full Focus, which used to be Michael Hyatt and Company, has something called the Freedom Compass, and it really, you map out everything you've done for the last 6 weeks or so, and then you put it in these zones from, the bottom is the drudgery zone, the things that you really don't like to do. Some of them you have to do because in a small business, there's a lot of things you have to do. And then there's the distraction zone and the disinterest zone. And then, of course, I can't think of the top zone, but that's where you perform your best. And if you were to do something like this for your entire team, you get a better idea of who's working in their drudgery zone, compared to who's working as a peak performer, and you can start shifting those around. And it is very difficult to do in a small business because there are less people to shift around and more things that need to be done. Yeah. But it was really a good eye-opener for me on the things I should stay away from because I can do, but I don't get energy from them, and I don't put out energy doing them. And it just kind of it takes energy away. So that was a good point there. But the other thing is when we're talking about peak performers and delivering excellence and trying to do your best, there's going to be failure. And we've talked about it many times in the podcast that failure is absolutely okay. It's what you do with the failure that tells you if you're moving towards being more of a high performer. And are you going to learn from those failures? Are you going to accept that, yeah, I screwed up on that one? What position can I put myself in so that doesn't happen to us again? Or is there someone better on our team to handle that? And that's where you really start pulling away and understanding how to get yourself in a better position. If you realize if these are multiple failures, why are you the one that's going to keep doing them? Or, is your team going to come along you and figure out how to get past that the next time?
Yeah, I think we see that more here in small business as you press in. And it's realizing now that we have a culture that says, try it, figure it out, step into it, grow through it. And at the same time, if you're hiring and you don't hire employees that fit that mindset, that are very much, I must perfect one thing and I'm going to do that one thing really well and I cannot add anything else into my mix until that thing is perfect. Well, that's maybe fine in a corporate job that's on repeat every day where you go in and you're doing accounts payable and that's all you do all day long is the same thing. You can perfect it. You can maximize your time there. But if you're in a small business, you have to be able to shift and pivot through multiple roles. And I think we see that as we right-size the business for the clients we have right now. We could just hire a bunch of people, but how's that going to help us? We're going to eat all of our revenue to have a bunch of staff sitting here that aren't doing anything. Or we press in and we say, all right, we need you to be able to do 4 or 5 things really well, because that is in your wheelhouse, and you're going to own those things, and then someone else is going to do 4 or 5 things really well that are different from yours so that we team into it. But if you have an employee that's not capable of that, as you press in,
right,
they start to have anxiety, they start to call in sick, they start to have a lot of things happen, and you'll eventually see that employee leave because you're pressing into something that they're not willing or able to do with your company.
And that's okay. I recently was listening to Dave Ramsey on the Craig Rochelle podcast, and he was
good, by the way.
So good.
You guys need to listen to that one. It's all over the place, but there's so many good nuggets.
Yeah, the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast, look it up. It's amazing. Any of the episodes are. But recently with Dave Ramsey, and Dave said, you can't motivate people. You just can't. And that's such a simple thing to say, but it's so true. Instead, why he has a successful business with over 1,000 employees is because when they hire people that are already motivated, people that already have that can-do attitude that, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to, get to the next level. And I just have that energy to perform. And with a company like that, there's a lot of places people can go. Small business, again, it's not going to be the same, but it is when you go to hire people. And I haven't thought about that before. It's like we ask a lot of questions and go through a lot of the normal stuff. We have some key questions we ask, but finding out how motivated a person is, that's a huge one.
Yeah, but are you really going to get the answer authentically in an interview? I think motivation is something you find out when they're here.
Well, and I think one of those questions are, what have you done?
Yeah.
And if people say, I won this award and I won this award and I won this award, or, what they do after hours, they, how they donate their time, how they spend their time with the family, go on adventures. That's, to me, that's someone that has motivation.
I think it's more of, what do you want to do here? What do you see yourself adding value?
That's good too.
To the organization? What areas do you see yourself bringing in an excellence that we don't have? I think that's what's missing these days is everyone just thinks that the business is there to hire them. And actually, when you're interviewing, you should be thinking about why do I want to come to this place? What am I going to bring to it to elevate it versus I'm going to show up and keep it mediocre? Why do you want to
Right.
work at a place like that? I would rather work at a place that says to me, like, what are you going to do here? Like, why do you want to come here? And how are you going to make it different?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the thing. That's where you'll find motivation. And then what are they motivated by? Are they motivated by title? Are they motivated by money?
Yeah.
Or are they motivated by success? What motivates you to want to be an excellent worker, right? I feel like those are those types of questions. What drives you? Like, right?
Those are good. And then the other quote came from, what's his name? Andy Stanley.
Always another good one.
Always a good one. And he said, you want to always say "whoa" instead of "giddy up."
We feel like we're saying "giddy up" a lot these days to ourselves, even.
Right.
Like,
And that's so, I mean, it's so funny, but it's so true. It's like, okay, slow down. Let's figure out a way to
Yeah.
take that energy and put it into the right thing instead of, come on, giddy up. Let's keep going. We need a little more.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather have the employee that's bringing you all kinds of new ideas and is looking for trends and figuring out how you can grow and get new business, or the employee you're kind of like dragging behind you of like, are you coming along with us here?
Yeah.
That's your giddy up versus whoa, right?
Absolutely.
And how you manage both of those people is very different.
Yeah.
When you're trying to slow someone down, you can drive them right out if they don't feel appreciated, because they're dreaming, they're wanting to build, they're wanting to grow.
Right. And I think as a leader, you have to take that and figure out where they can use that energy,
Right.
to help them and help the business. Because if you don't, if it's always like, no, I don't think we should go that direction, you'll lose them, and they'll go somewhere that they'll perform at a huge level. And I can say over the last 22 years, we've had a couple employees like that we couldn't get out of our own heads, and we were the ceiling of this organization to realize the ideas that they had. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the right time. If I look back, maybe it wasn't the right time. But having that mindset now, I would treat it way differently. Mm-hmm. And that's just me learning to be a better leader over this last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think to be a high-performance team, you have to kind of get everyone out of their comfort zones.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just stay in that day-to-day rut of I do the same thing with the same people. And one way we're out of our comfort zone a lot is we get new clients all the time. So there's no way to just sit in routine. Even if you have the same process, that new client is going to bring you all kinds of new challenges as you deal with new personalities, directions of an organization. And so we are unique in that we are constantly getting to build and grow our leadership and our team's leadership, because we get to go in and lead other organizations. But if you're in a larger organization and you're a leader, you do have to get a little bit creative, because you can get stuck if you don't have new projects or new things, if you do kind of repetitive motion.
Yeah.
But that's a part of culture. I think that's where you have to get back to culture. And like you were talking about all the different fun quotes of you can't motivate people. And we've seen that. We see people, organizations all the time. It's like, well, I brought in this keynote and that's going to motivate them for the year. It's like, that's going to motivate them for the hour.
Right.
You spent $25,000 to motivate them for the hour. It's what you do with the conversation after the keynote that's going to keep it going.
Yeah, no question about it. I think, again, just kind of, to close this thing out, having a high-performance team, it's about the attitude. And what attitude are you bringing? As the leader of the organization, are you coming in and just showing your staff how stressed you are, how bad things are, how, woe is me it could even be? Or are you bringing in the energy saying, hey, you know what? Last week was a hard week. Yesterday was a hard day, whatever the case may be. But today we got some new ideas. We got some new ways to maybe look at some different solutions. It's really up to you to keep that momentum going and making sure that not only that are they engaged, but that they feel like they can get somewhere. They feel like they can be part of a solution. And maybe it is, hey, I heard what you said the other day. We didn't really address it, but talk to me more about that, because I really think that you had something there. So let's dig into that a little bit more and bring that out of your staff. I would say Sarah's much better at doing that than I am. That's that whole passion talk. But just having the key of really listening to people and understanding. In the high performance, you could have a bunch of motivated people, but if you're not listening to them and helping guide their energy to where it needs to go, they might perform high somewhere else.
Yeah. I think we're all just a work in progress, but you have to have it built in and embedded in. If you want it, you have to drive towards it. First as a leader, and then get your team on board with you.
We appreciate that you decided to hang out and spend some time with us discussing life and leadership. It would mean the world to us if you would share this episode on social media to increase our online presence. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a minute to rate it and review it wherever you listen. Mahalo!